"Hey kid, get lost. This street ain't for charity cases." The man's voice was rough, soaked in rain and pride, and it wasn't even meant for the boy. It was meant for the world, for the storm, for his own weakness. But the poor black boy standing there didn't move. He just held the old man's elbow tighter as the wind shoved against them, and said quietly that nobody walks alone in weather like this. The old man tried to pull away, but the boy walked anyway, and somewhere in the dark, fate started writing a different ending for both of them. The storm came fast that night, kind that turns sidewalks into rivers and makes city lights look like they're drowning. Cars hissed past in long sheets of water. Storefronts slammed their gates down early. People ran with heads tucked, shoulders high, chasing warmth. The world became a blur of umbrellas and hard luck. Jamal had no umbrella. He was 12, skinny, wearing a thin hoodie that had given up trying to stay dry. His shoes were 2 sizes too small, soles worn down like paper. I had been out late because his mother's shift at the nursing home ran long, and he didn't like being home alone in their tiny apartment when the neighbors fought. So he waited under the awning of a closed laundry shop, counting the minutes by the drip of water off the metal roof. Across the street, he saw the old man. The man stood near the bus stop, hunched in a heavy coat, hat pulled low, shaking from cold or age or both. His cane slipped on the wet curb, and he nearly went down. He caught himself, breathing hard, looking around like someone hoping to see a friendly face, and finding none. People passed him without slowing. A few glanced over, then kept walking like kindness would make them late. Jamal watched that moment land on the old man's shoulders. He felt it in his own chest, too. Jamal's whole life had been a series of small storms. His dad had left when Jamal was 5, a goodbye that didn't even bother with a note. His mom worked double shifts, hands cracked, back tired, love steady, but stretched thin. Jamal learned early that survival is loud, but dignity is quiet. Also learned that if you ever want to see tomorrow, you don't waste whatever goodness you have today. So he crossed the street. He asked the old man if he was okay. The old man didn't answer at first. His eyes were sharp, suspicious, the kind of eyes that had seen too many tricks. He asked Jamal what he wanted. Jamal said nothing. He just saw him slipping and didn't want him to fall. The old man told him to mind his own business. Jamal nodded, then watched the old man take another step and stumble again. The cane skidded. Jamal caught his arm without thinking. The old man jerked away, offended and afraid. "Don't touch me, boy. I'm fine." But he wasn't fine. His breathing was fast. His hands were shaking. The storm was getting worse, and the bus stop was empty like it had given up on promises. Jamal looked down the road and saw no bus coming. He asked where the old man lived. The old man said he didn't need help and started walking anyway, stubborn as a locked door. Jamal walked beside him. The houses here were old, the sidewalks cracked, the street lamps flickering like tired eyes. The rain hit sideways, cold needles. On skin, the old man kept slipping. Jamal kept catching him. The old man kept pretending not to need it. After a block, the old man asked why Jamal was doing this. Jamal shrugged and said his grandma taught him that storms don't care who you are, so you shouldn't either. The old man laughed once, bitter and surprised. He said most kids would have asked for money. Jamal said he didn't want money. Wanted the old man to get home safe. The old man studied him in the rain. His name was Harold Whitaker, 71. He didn't say it like a man who wanted pity. Said it like a man who wanted to remember who he still was. Years ago, Harold had owned half the city's rails and warehouses. His name was on foundations and plaques. He used to ride in cars that never touched a puddle. But wealth had not saved him from life. A stroke last year stole speed from his body. His only son lived across the country, busy and distant. His friends were mostly memories now. Tonight he had left a clinic checkup and insisted on walking the last stretch alone because he hated feeling weak in front of people. Then the storm punished that pride, and this boy, soaked and shivering, was the only one who stopped. They reached a modest townhouse with a blue door. Harold fumbled his key. Jamal held his shoulders steady. When the lock finally turned, Warm air rushed out like mercy. Harold stepped inside and turned back, surprised to see Jamal still standing in the rain. "You should get home," Harold said, softer now. He tried to hand Jamal a bill from his pocket. Jamal stepped back. "Keep it, sir. Buy yourself something warm." Harold frowned, confused by a kindness that didn't negotiate. Jamal smiled, small and tired, and turned toward the street. "Go on, kid," Harold called out. He waited until Jamal was halfway down the block before closing the door. Inside, Harold stood in his hallway, coat dripping on the floor. He felt the sting of shame for how he had spoken to the boy. He felt the ache of gratitude, too. His heart, old and stubborn, thudded with something like hope. He went to bed thinking about that boy's hands on his elbow, steady as a promise. The next morning, Jamal woke to knocking. Not the small, polite knock of a neighbor. The kind that makes the whole apartment feel like it's being asked a question. His mom opened the door and froze. 3 men in suits stood in the hallway. Clean, pressed, serious. One held a folder. Another held a small black umbrella, even though the storm was gone. Their shoes shined like they had never met a puddle in their lives. They asked for Jamal by name. His mother's face changed fast, fear rising like a flood. Jamal stepped forward, heart pounding. Thought maybe something bad happened to the old man. Thought maybe he had done something wrong without knowing it. One of the men smiled gently. He said Mr. Whitaker would like to see you. They drove Jamal and his mother to a tall building downtown, glass and steel, the kind Jamal usually only saw on buses. The lobby smelled like polished stone and clean air. People moved quietly, as if even footsteps had rules here. They rode up to the top. Floor Harold was waiting in a bright office, with rain clouds still hanging in his eyes. He looked stronger in daylight, but the cane was still there, leaning against his chair. When Jamal entered, Harold stood slowly, using the desk for balance. Jamal didn't know what to say. He just nodded. Harold walked over careful, then held out his hand, not for money, for respect. "You walked me home last night?" Harold said. "I acted like I didn't need you, but I did." Jamal looked down, embarrassed. He said it was nothing. Harold shook his head. He said no one had done something for him in a long time without wanting something back. He said Jamal reminded him of the kind of man he used to be before power made him forget how to see people. Then Harold opened the folder. He had asked his team to find the boy because he wanted to repay a debt that wasn't about cash. He asked about Jamal's school, his dreams, his mother's work, his needs. Jamal's mom listened in stunned silence, tears forming before she even understood why. Harold offered Jamal a scholarship through his foundation. Full support through high school, college if he wanted it, tutoring, books, a safe after-school program. He offered Jamal's mom a better job at one of his company's care centers, with real pay and real hours. He said this wasn't charity. This was what a decent world should do when it meets a decent child. Jamal's mother tried to refuse out of pride. Harold told her, pride is for standing tall, not for staying stuck. He said her son had saved a life last night, and he intended to honor that. Jamal stood there, still feeling like this was a dream someone else deserved. He asked why Harold was doing so much. Harold looked at him and said one simple line. "Because you showed me who I want the city to belong to." Jamal didn't cry in that office, not yet. He held it together until they stepped outside into sunlight. That felt new. Then he leaned into his mother's side and let the tears come, quiet but full. The way storms leave the ground soft for something to grow. Sometimes the world changes not by loud heroes, but by tired kids who stop anyway. Sometimes a storm is not a curse, but a test for hearts. And sometimes the men in suits show up not to take from you, but to tell you that your goodness was seen. If this story touched you, comment where you're watching from and share a time someone's small kindness changed your day. Subscribe for more stories about quiet courage and the moments that turn a life around.